Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening, Mel. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, thanks. Good to see you. Good to hear your voice, Tree.
Good to hear your voice too, because I've been following you on your journey, and thanks for sending me your latest blog. So it took me like a few minutes to catch up to the natural splendor of the landscapes that you described. So I think the last time we talked, Mel, we were in Fort Collins, and I was reading two of the blogs that you sent. One is the Heaven's Gate one, and the other one is the Searching for Wyoming one. So let's quickly get down, I think, to your journey through in the Heaven's Gate that you describe it, the 44-mile climb with the Canyon. Let's start with that, and then we'll start as we go to the rest of them. There, we'll talk to the other ones with the grades that you described. So let's start from Fort Collins right away.
Yeah, so Fort Collins is at the foot of the Rockies. The first set of mountains are known as the Front Range, and they're substantial. And the very first pass that we were confronted with, Cameron Pass, is about 30 miles outside of Fort Collins. And to get to that pass, you take a beautiful bike path through the meadows that are on the west end of Fort Collins, and then you pick up the Poudre River and you start climbing. And you climb and you climb and you climb and then you climb some more. And after about 33 miles, you reach Cameron Pass, which is 10,200 and some feet above sea level, where the air is thin, tough to breathe. I had to stop a few times just to catch my breath. But the canyon is spectacular. It's sandstone red, and the river rushes through it and creates very interesting rock formations and just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Mm. Well, I was looking at the your blog in the first one, and I know you talked about this 9% grade. And did the writing in Connecticut help you with that 9% grade? But looks like
Yeah, all of the training that I did has built stamina, strength, and most important, confidence to take on just about anything that I've confronted. And there are moments when you're making these climbs at 9%, where you're barely moving. You're going at about 4 miles an hour, where you doubt yourself. You wonder if you can finish, but you just keep pressing on. And I know that the training in Connecticut makes the difference. And then, of course, I think I mentioned the winds of the plains, Kansas and Nebraska, which were so intense in our face, also helped because it builds muscle when you're riding into the wind for 70 miles. So all those things have helped, and I confronted and accomplished the first pass. I've since then accomplished the second pass. We've got, I think, 6 total passes that we'll climb between here and the coast. So we got 2 down and 4 to go.
well, I think one thing you did mention just before this was that you did say that as you're going through your climb, is about. I mean, I think you said about Cameron Pass summit is 10,276 feet. A great picture of you, Jackson County picture in your red bike there. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And I think you did mention a little bit about the catching of the breath there, but then seems like the reward was that you had some beautiful mountains still, as you call it, draped in the winter snow. So that must have been a bonus. But then you talked about a little bit about the 9 mile descent. So was it the one that you mentioned last time when you said sometimes you could go up to speeds about 50 to 60 miles an hour?
I didn't, but you could. It's when you're on that kind of a descent, if you don't use your brakes, you could be going 50 to 60 miles an hour. Because I don't know the roads that well, I kept my speed under 35 on that descent, um, just because I didn't know the roads. And the other thing is, it is so beautiful that you want to see what's around you.
Right.
And if you're traveling at 45, you really don't get a chance to. You got to concentrate so carefully on the road that you don't get a chance. Whereas at 30 miles an hour, you can look around a little bit. You can enjoy the scenery, and that was I opted for that kind of a, and it was a great choice.
Yeah. And then I think after your 9 mile descent, you kind of talked about you still had 15 miles to go, but then the day kind of shifted from being so beautiful, but with some storms that you had, and you kind of talked about the Trans Am Express. So a little bit on, do you want to talk about that? And how different was it from riding in the rain and storm in Kansas to what you encountered in the Trans Am Express?
Yeah, so when we after we descended from the pass, everything changed. We went from what and you could see it building. You could see storm clouds building in the distance. The mountains have an impact on the winds and the clouds, and they create these massive thunder clouds, and you could see it all around us. And we just knew. And then the wind started to take over and blow in our face, whereas we had it at our back when we were climbing the pass, and it became a very difficult final 15 miles, and then drenching rain for the last, I don't know, 5 miles, so that when we got into camp, we were soaking wet. Fortunately, the air is so dry here that within 15 minutes you're dry. So it's
That that's interesting. I think that's the high altitude thing that you say. But the other thing is that I was funny. I was telling my wife about this, and I said yesterday when I was on my bike ride, and I saw there was some rain, and I said, okay, this rain should be nothing when compared to what Mel is encountering, because the kind of winds that they get. I mean, there was only like 5-10 mile hour winds, and what you're describing is about, I think it's like, it's like what I described to you was like the mini version, and then what you described is like 1,000 times over there. The one thing I did really like your comparison, and maybe you want to talk about it, the 2 day ride from Fort Collins to Walden, and you talked about being one of the great rides of your life, and you compared it with few other rides. You want to kind of draw some analogy between some of the other rides that you went through?
yeah. So I've been riding as a tourist, as a cycling tourist, my whole life, and have had some amazing experiences. And when you get a chance to climb into a canyon and then across a pass where there's snow all around you and it's June, it brings back memories of these amazing rides that I've done in the past. And in particular, I mentioned the ride from Hastings, England, where we
Mhm.
visited the castle of William the Conqueror, and then rode the Roman road from Hastings to Canterbury. And that is a ride I'll always remember, not because of any epic climbs, but because you're riding on a road that's 2,000 years old. And and you look around you and you see stone huts that were built by Roman settlers. So that, was amazing. Trying to think of the other two epic rides that I compared it to.
I think the other two you had compared to was one was I think you talked the Holland bike path, then you got the
Oh,
right along the Egyptian border,
oh yes.
California. Yeah.
Yeah. So Holland was amazing. Carrie and I on our honeymoon rode up the coast from Belgium up to Amsterdam and along the North Sea through dunes that were just magical. With amazing tailwinds, and we're able to cover incredible amounts of ground. And then, of course, I mentioned the ride along the border of the Sinai, which I've had the gift to do multiple times on the Israel ride, where we ride on the military security road that's closed to traffic. And the only thing on the road are the bunch of cyclists and two army jeeps that escort us, one behind
Wow.
and one ahead. So that those are rides that are truly memorable, and I'll now add Poudre Canyon and Cameron Pass to those amazing lifetime memories.
Yep. And right from the pass, the Cameron Pass, you guys left to Saratoga, Wyoming, and I think where you crossed the border and then onto the Continental Divide. And I think it was just as I was reading through it, and you kind of mentioned those 6 days that you uh, uh, rode on, and you said the majesty of Wyoming that you talked about, and you said it was just spectacular. So maybe I'll uh, kind of give you the floor and talk about some of the things I read, but maybe it's better to probably to hear from you.
Yeah, so we're in western, sort of central to western Wyoming. I've never been here before. I've been in eastern Wyoming. This year has been particularly rainy, unusually rainy. So the mountains are lush with green, sagebrush, and flowers, and then the geological formations in this part of Wyoming are stunning. That there are these tectonic plates that just rise out of the desert or the plains and create these slanted tabletops, if you will, and then beneath them is the strata of a once ancient lake bed in different colors for over the years that different sediments had settled, and it's just an unbelievable picture. The colors, reds and yellows and browns and greens and grays and in all different hues, that are just hard to keep. It's hard to ride. We stop, take pictures. We almost, it's hard to make progress because you look at these things and you're just amazed with the beauty. uh, and then we're also riding through cattle ranches, which are beautiful, and horse ranches. There's a lot of ranches here where people come to visit to ride horses and hunt, and they've all got beautiful gates that you ride past, and
Hmm.
it's just outstanding. It's hard to really put into words. It's why I named my blog "Searching for Words." Or "Searching for Wyoming." It's just hard to describe. You've got to see it. And again, one of the absolute amazing things about riding a bicycle through the landscape is that you are a part of the landscape. You're not like in a car going at 60 miles an hour. We're going at 12 to 14 miles an hour, sometimes slower if the wind is blowing in our face, and sometimes
Mm.
faster if it's going behind us. But and so you're smelling the sage, and you're hearing the cows and the horses, and we saw pronghorn antelope and deer and all kinds of things that are just ridiculously beautiful.
Yeah, and a couple of things that you also mentioned there was, apart from all the colors of the rocks, you said throw in the rushing river or dry creek bed and you'll find Wyoming. And from there you kind of crossed the border, went to the Continental Divide, and you would cross it twice, I think, right? You said you'd cross it twice
Twice in
before.
one day. We crossed it. We've now crossed it a third time, but we crossed it twice in
Oh,
one day. Yeah, so we went from the eastern half of the country, if you will, to the western half, and then crossed again from the western back to the eastern in a matter of about 15 miles.
yeah. And then you did mention that, during this trip, showers, taking a shower, cold, nice hot shower would be great. But I think you talked about a little bit about the public hot springs.
Yeah.
Want to talk a little bit about those public hot springs?
Yeah, so Saratoga is famous for its hot springs, and the town has built these pools that are where the hot spring water is poured into these pools from underground. There's three pools, so you get three different temperature varieties, two of which were far too hot for anybody to go into. We all went into the coolest one, which was 110 degrees. Um, the bottom of this pool is gravel because otherwise it would grow algae on anything that was solid surface, and it sits next to the North Platte River. So you go from the hot tub into the very cold North Platte River that is melting snow basically this time of year, and then go back from the river into the hot tub. And we went back and forth a few times. And for bodies that have been riding for now over 2,000 miles, that was a really refreshing experience.
Yeah. And I think from Saratoga, you kind of said you went to Rawlings and you were to Jeffrey City,
Yes.
a ghost town. Maybe I want to talk a little bit about that. So yeah, let's hear from you on what Jeffrey City was like.
Yeah, Jeffrey City was spooky. It was a town that had basically boomed as the result of the building of a uranium mine nearby. And within 5 years, and it was a federal government mine, and within 5 years, the government decided to shut down the mine. So this town got built up, 1,000 people, homes, streets, everything, and now it's almost all gone. All the homes were temporary, were like these, prefab homes. They picked them up and took them and left. The only thing that's left in the town is a saloon, this really quirky pottery shop with this oddball potter who's surviving somehow, and a church which has been turned into a bicycle hostel and where we stayed the night. Everything else is gone.
Yeah, and
In my blog, it felt like the Twilight Zone. It was bizarre.
I think you did mention about the Twilight Zone and kind of, and you said it was pretty cool even in the. I mean, it is sad that a town that was booming once upon a time has been reduced to something a shadow of itself, and that's a sad part. And looks like you did mention that the walls were covered with a lot of the names and musings of all the cyclists from all the world who stayed in the church.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys left something out there
Yep.
on the church. Okay, cool. And then from there, and I think last time we talked about, you did mention about this. You said when we were in Wyoming, I think you wrote to Lander where you stayed at her compound, Deb, on her compound, and then you and Chet stayed there. So seems like a pretty nice cabin from the picture I'm seeing here.
The by far the most luxurious place we stayed in the entire trip. Beautiful, with a gorgeous view of the mountains from that porch that I was sitting on, and it's just, yeah, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And it was great for her to host us. It was. I think it was pretty emotional for her. It was emotional for us, and we had a good time in Lander.
Yeah, and then from there, I think you kind of mentioned there's a bunch of canyons, right? We went to the Porter Canyon, then you went and visited the Sink Canyon. The pictures are just beautiful that you have out there. Another, you call it gorgeous geological, I would say, marvel, I would call it. But the pictures don't do justice to it, obviously. But and then you're off to Teton. So let's talk about that.
Well, I just want to mention before the Tetons, we did go to Du Bois.
Oh yeah.
That was the last stop before the Tetons, where we were Friday night, and I went to a rodeo. I'd never been to. It was my first rodeo.
And when you say the word like this, my first rodeo, it's kind of like a play on words, that kind of thing. But this is truly your first rodeo.
Truly my first rodeo. It was fascinating, mostly for the people watching, just seeing how people in the town come out on a Friday night dressed in their boots and cowboy hats, and they're all mostly ranchers, and very cool to see that. And then the Broncos and the bull riding and steer chasing, and they have clowns, and it was Americana, really a very, very American experience, cultural experience.
Yeah, and I think you kind of mentioned it. I'm looking at the pictures of the rodeo, pretty cool with the woman in the nice with an American flag, holding onto the American flag. They probably played the Star Spangled Banner, and looks like you also had like a lot of people under 12 invited to the ring to chase some calves, and that seems to be like a new experience in itself. So
Yeah,
uh,
that was hysterical. All these, there must have been 40 kids running around chasing these calves that had ribbons on their tails, and if you got a ribbon, you got a T-shirt. So
yeah. Yeah, and then the next one, the last one, I think, on the blog that you had up was the. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Togwitty Pass. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, you don't pronounce the W. It's Toggedy Pass.
Toggedy Pass. Okay,
Toggedy
got it.
Pass, which is a Shoshone word. Shoshone's tribe occupied a big stretch of this land. In fact, on I think it was the ride from land. I think from Lander to Du Bois, we were 35 miles in the Shoshone, what's called Wind River Reservation, which was interesting. But yeah, we made the climb to Togedy Pass, another 33-mile uphill
To the pass.
ride along the Wind River, and we had wind to beat the band. It was
Yeah.
crazy. Just
So what was the grade here? Like, I know the
so the
one you.
first so the first 25 miles are actually pretty gentle. They're 2, 3, 4%,
Okay.
um, and but it's climbing, so it's 25 miles of pretty hard work, especially with the wind blowing the way it was. But then you get to the last 9 miles, and the grades jump to from 6 to 9%, and a 9% grade is challenging. It's especially when it goes on for a mile or two, and the air is thin, and then add the wind to it, and you've got a very difficult day of riding. It took us that 9 mile stretch took 2 hours, so we're averaging 4.5 miles an hour. Um, and it takes a lot of perseverance to overcome the doubts, because every
Yeah.
stroke of the pedal makes you doubt whether you're going to be able to make it. And I do, as I mentioned in my vlog, and I do this with a lot of tough rides, whether
Mhm.
it's windy rides or whether it's big hills. I break it up mentally into parts so that it's easier for me to approach it as 3 3-mile climbs rather than the 9 mile climb. And that's what I do. And then I know I reward myself with a rest at the 3 mile mark, and then get on the bike and do another 3 miles, take a rest, and then did the last 3 miles.
Yeah. I think the thing that you mentioned there was that you kind of way you broke it down seems like this kind of prepares you as you go on to the other climbs that you mentioned. I think there's four more other things that you need to go through.
Yeah,
Um, but seems like you were rewarded with some kind of a descent, a nice descent, which
beautiful descent.
uh, yeah.
Yeah, and during that descent, probably about 2 miles into the descent, you get your first glimpse of the Grand Tetons, and they are just majestic. They are jagged. They are tall. There are four. There's actually more than four, but there's four sort of groups of the Tetons. I think there's a total of like 16 or 17 mountain peaks, but they're sort of grouped into four, and they're just gorgeous, gorgeous, red and gray, and we had a very rare, completely blue sky day, and to see those mountains without clouds on them is rare. And so so we still had 35 miles to go to get to the park, but
Yep.
one thing that kept us going is the mountains are literally growing in front of you, um, because they're getting bigger. They seem to be getting bigger and bigger as we approach.
Yeah, it seems like you did. There was a beautiful picture you posted of the Coulter Bay
Yeah.
and Jackson Lake. That picture just is just so beautiful with the clouds. You got the shadow of the clouds, and on the river, on the bay, and then it's just so beautiful. I would love to see these pictures, not on the blog, but when you come back on your phone, we'll probably like beam it up on the TV in our tennis club, and I think everybody should probably see it. So I think it's just so cool. So you're 37 miles away to the Grand Teton National Park. You're right now resting up, which is a good thing. Where are you right now?
No,
Like, are you
I'm
in?
in the park. We finished the
You're in the
ride into
park.
the park last night.
Oh,
Arrived here about 4:30 yesterday afternoon, and have spent the off day. Today's an off day, so I'm sitting in the park. I'm actually outside of one of the lodge restaurants, and we're in a campground about a mile and a half away that I'll walk to, and to get dinner, and we'll have our map meeting and prepare. Tomorrow we're off to Yellowstone.
wow. Yeah, I was just looking at the map right now, and you have Wyoming, Idaho, and then Oregon,
Yeah, and
right?
Montana. We've got five
Montana.
nights.
Oh, you got Montana. I'm sorry
Yeah,
about
we
that.
got
Yeah.
5 nights in Montana before we get to Idaho. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're. Oh, yeah. Oh, you go up. Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, Montana, Idaho, then Oregon. So three more states to go, Mel. So how many miles have you done so far? I mean, last time we stopped was
I think 2,800. I think we got two. We
okay,
got. I
2,800.
think we. I think it's. I think it's 2,800. I think we got about 1,000 to go.
1,000 to go. Yep. Yeah. I think last time we talked, it was 2,200. That was last Friday, and then we're in Sunday. So you have, three more states to go. A lot of climbing. I know there's a lot of hard parts that are coming in, but You've been amazing, like, going through this, kind of like, this is not easy by any stretch, just reading all these things and hearing from you, going through all these hardships, but at the same time, looking at the nature that is offered, the splendor. It's great to hear that. So, thank you again for sharing this. And any last words before we? Oh, when can we talk? When can we talk next?
So I'm actually off a day after tomorrow in Yellowstone. That's my next day
Yep,
off. That's what, Tuesday maybe.
yep, yep.
And then let me just see when the next off day is. It's
So you have like, yeah. So the next one is obviously going to. Oh,
oh, and
looks
then I'm
like the
off. I'm off the following Monday and Tuesday. Well, Tuesday. So I have the next two Tuesdays off. One in Yellowstone, and then I'll be in Baker City. Wait, no. I'll be in Missoula,
Montana.
Montana next Monday, a week, June 16th. That would probably be a good
Okay.
day to talk.
Oh yeah, yeah. We should definitely talk. And if we think we can catch up on Tuesday, that's great. But I think I think there's a long. I think that'll give us like a good gap between Sunday right now and the following Monday, 16th. If you could tell me ahead of time, like which day on the 16th, um, I think that'll work out. Any time will work out in the later in the evening or even during the day. If you just let me know,
Okay.
we'll figure it out.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. Why don't
So
you send put that in your diary? Send me a little prompt on the 15th, and
yeah,
I'll send you a text back telling you what a good time on the 16th will be.
perfect. Mel, this was just phenomenal. Just I'm just like um, ready to even go back and listen to this once again. I think thank you for sharing this. The blogs were just amazing. Just the pictures are just phenomenal. I'm going to attach the links for both the Heaven's Gate as well as the Searching for Wyoming in the latest podcast so that folks can actually click on it and go. And then uh, thank you so much again for sharing and looking forward to your journey into Yellowstone and more.
Thank you,
Thank
Sri.
you again, and I'm going to just stop the recording. Have a great dinner and night, and have a good night.
Thank you, Sri. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.